Hello, my name is Arthur Gay. I went to and graduated from the Columbia MFA program in New York, but I'm from New Zealand, where this film was shot. This film being When the Geese Flew. The film was about a young teenager called Cyrus who lives with his sister and his dad in a small town in the mountains in New Zealand. And the film was about him saying goodbye to his older sister. She is a really important person in his life, kind of the only person that he can rely on for emotional support and advice. And she's leaving town, and the film is about him coming to terms with that. And well, really the film's about him stealing a motorbike. He gets it in his mind that he above all else wants to steal back his sister's stolen motorbike, I guess in a way to keep her from leaving, or to keep her with him. So yeah, it follows his journey in trying to recover this stolen motorbike, and ultimately having to accept his sister's leaving. It's a coming of age film, and I guess it explores the idea of trying to gain agency in a situation that you don't have control of. And throughout this film, he certainly is trying to gain some control. It's a sort of bittersweet film that I think I hope captures the idea of love, but also the struggle of growing up and the desire to have some control over one's own life, and over one's own ability to manage one's emotions, maybe, whilst also accepting that life can be hard. What inspired it? I guess I moved around a lot when I was young. I moved countries a lot of times, in towns with my mum. She was a single mum, and it was sort of like me and my mum were a team. And so for me, I guess that had a big impact on me, both the experience of change, and also the experience of having like one person in your life that was your rock, you know. And so I didn't really like the process of making this film was a slow evolving one, you know, where it developed over time, but ultimately, you know, it came from this desire to examine the relationship between two figures that were extremely close, and also needed to sort of accept change. And yeah, I guess as a coming of age, it also, you know, was just inspired by my own experiences of growing up and starting to understand how the world operated as a young little person. Yeah, and I guess, you know, I sort of I knew that I wanted to set it in this place that felt really remote, and that when his sister had left, it felt like she was gone, you know, like the world around us and around Cyrus was its own energy. And I think that was probably, you know, inspired by, although mine was the opposite of moving a lot, place has a really significant kind of experience in my memory as defining the areas that I lived, and plays a really important role in my memory. And so I kind of conversely felt like setting this story in this really remote place could have a similar energy, a similar feeling of maybe being trapped, but also inspiring the desire to like be free, maybe. Collaborators, I mean, there were many incredible, collaborators and artists who all brought this film to life. Michael Kong, Laura Ganotis. Laura was the producer, is the producer, and Michael Kong is the cinematographer. And we spent, we have worked on a few projects together, and we spent a really long time. We just really vibe. We have a very similar interest in cinema. He's a director and a cinematographer, and from the beginning we knew that we wanted to work together on this. Well, I did. I hope he did. But I'd say we certainly pulled from filmmakers that we really appreciate and love. So Wim Wenders, Tarkovsky and Antonioni, Kelly Reichardt, Gus Van Sant. These are filmmakers that I think we both appreciate to different, we both have our specific interests, but I think we were always unconsciously pulling from these filmmakers that inspire us, but also we spent a really long time just pulling up images, photography, and just talking about the energy of each scene. So it was a mixture of intellectual discourse with intuition. And the reason I really love working with Michael, well, there's many reasons, but he has a really strong intuition, and I really trust that. And when we get on the same wavelength, talking about things in the sort of intellectual in terms of how are we applying a look or a feeling or what approach we want to use, but it's sort of derived from an emotional place, and I think a lot of the time we're communicating in that way, trying to figure out, should we be handheld in this scene, should we be sit back and be a little bit more observing, it was a sort of a really in-depth, and that sort of carried through in our shoot days and through to the rest of post-production, our color grade. And I guess so what inspires me, that's really hard because I feel there's so many things, right? But I think one of the things that feels, one of the moments that I really find myself living for maybe in film is the pursuit of when something feels truthful. We spend so much time constructing and examining and dissecting, and that's a beautiful and real part of the process. And then on the few occasions where you see something on screen, whether I'm an audience member or I've been creating that myself and I get to experience it or see it on camera when it happens, when those moments of just truth happen and you just know it, it's an aha moment. I feel when I witness this in other films from filmmakers that I really like, it's if you're in a cinema, you become aware of yourself experiencing it because it feels real, and you're self-reflecting in a way, and you notice the people around you, the audience, and it's seldomly, I honestly, it's seldomly that happens, but when it does, it's really powerful. And you might be sitting in the edit and something clicks and finally it just feels real and truthful, and the construct that you've used to make that, you're both proud of your work that you put in, but also it disappears as well. In a way, it's sort of it's a funny dichotomy that so I think for me it's those moments feel really special, and sometimes even they play as happy accidents that happen, and you're that is exactly what was needed. So I would say that is maybe what inspires me to keep on trying to make films, is the pursuit of finding some moments of truth. That sounds really what's the word, pretentious. I don't know, but it's true. Like, really, I think those are the moments that feel most special, and is what keeps me trying to make films. Yeah, thank you for being here, and watching. Thank you for watching my film and everyone's films.